Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Baxi.
And I'm Eric.
Eric is recommending. Eric actually messaged me earlier, and he came up with an idea to do something. So, Eric, do you want to go ahead and introduce this whole idea of yours?
Well, originally I just messaged you and I was like, hey, do you like Vampire D? And you were like, I watched 15 minutes of it and was bored. So I didn't watch any more. I was like, well, as we've all learned, blind commentaries are everyone's favorite feature on Geekvolution. Um, so what if we do a half blind commentary where we watch it together and I know this movie very well and you don't know it like at all? So that's what we're
And we're
doing.
going to come back and do the second one if I end up liking this.
Yeah, well, we should. I mean, I'm not going to force you to do the second one, but even if you don't like this one, you might like the second one. Like most people like the second one.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, we'll probably come back and do the second one then, because this is one of those things where, like, if I tell anyone I like Trigun or I like Hellsing or I like Black Blood Brothers, they tell me to go back and watch Vampire Hunter D. So that's the only reason
I don't even
I was
know what
ever
that last
vaguely
one
introduced
is.
to it.
I'm so out of the anime scene. I don't even know. Is Black Blood Brothers any good? What is that?
That's a little bit older. That was like a 13 episode thing, which is just another vampire show. And the big twist on this one is that if you get bitten by a vampire, it is literally like you're having sex.
Oh,
It's interesting. I actually really liked it, but I haven't rewatched it. I binged the whole thing once and really liked it.
I might check that out.
Yeah, it was on Hulu at one point. Maybe it still is.
But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the first. Did we even say that it was the Vampire and D movie? I mean, they'll read the video title, but I don't think we
Yeah,
said it
no,
was Vampire D.
I'm not sure if we said it. Yeah, but this is Vampire Hunter D. Are we both watching it English dub?
I thought you said you were gonna watch Japanese.
I just found it as English dub, so I'm watching it that way.
Okay. Do you have the subtitles?
I do.
Are they the real subtitles or are they the Japanese subtitles?
They are real subtitles.
Okay, because on the DVD, the subtitles are the actual translated subtitles.
Okay.
They're not the subtitles for the speaking film.
Okay. Well, I got this and made sure that they were the real subtitles.
Okay, cool.
All right. So yeah, if you have this movie, go ahead and put it in. And actually, this whole thing is on YouTube. So if you're already on YouTube while you're listening to this, so why don't you just open up another tab and turn on the movie?
Or they just released on Blu-ray. You can go buy it, which is actually kind of a big deal because it was out of print for years.
Was it really? Wow.
My version is actually, I'm almost positive, an illegal version.
Oh,
I
interesting.
don't know this for sure, but I bought it on eBay years ago, and it has both DVDs on one DVD, and when you put it in, it just has the menu for the first movie and the menu for the second movie, and then you click one, and that takes it to you, and it's like you're watching the DVD of that thing. So I suspect it's illegal.
Interesting. I didn't know that they ever put this out of print. It feels like one of those things that everyone knows about and it's always out there.
Yeah, when I got into anime, which was, in the late 90s, I always got this sense of, like, there was, like, the trilogy of anime movies that you had to watch, and it was Akira, Ghost in the Shell, and Vampire D. And I feel like Vampire D's kind of been forgotten a little bit.
Yeah, probably so. It's definitely got its influence all over the place, but people don't go back and rewatch it the way they do with Akira and Ghost in the Shell. I mean, even I go back and watch those movies all the time. I love them.
Well, and I think it maybe got a little bit replaced by the second one. I think most people like the second one better. I like the first one better, but we'll talk about it.
Okay, cool. Well, if you've got the movie, go ahead and put it at timestamp 0, and we'll get started. Eric, you set?
I'm ready.
All right. Everybody press play right now.
It's playing the movie.
It is playing. Oh, hooray. Titles, logos. This is exciting.
Oh, I don't have titles and logos. Mine just goes straight into the movie.
Oh. I've got, like, that weird Japanese logo that they always play.
Oh, yeah, no, mine just went moon and then text.
Okay, I'm at the moon now. This is creepy. I like the design.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of weird when you said, like, you were bored by the first 15 minutes, because I think the first 15 minutes are really strong.
Interesting.
At least atmospherically. So that the text that you see, that's a lie. Or it's not a lie. It's not. It's way more complicated than that. We are in a world that is thousands of years removed from our world. The vampires have taken over and then lost control. Like,
What?
yeah,
It doesn't even say that. That's ridiculous.
yeah, no.
Why wouldn't you lead with that?
Well, even the book, the first book, that's like you kind of have like an intro chapter, and then that's what the second chapter is explaining. Like, uh, yeah, we are thousands of years in the future. Also, if you were a fan of the books, which you couldn't be in America, but if you were a fan of the books in Japan, when this came out, the second you see that cross, you would probably just be like, wrong. Because one of the most interesting things in the books is that because vampires were rulers for thousands of years, they've kind of genetically altered humans. And and no one knows any of the weaknesses of the vampire. They don't know about the cross or the garlic or anything like that. And if you learn it, the vampires can like remove your memory of learning it. Like you can remember that you did something that hurt them, but you won't remember what it was.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is in the book for this movie. It should be noted, this movie is based on a large series of books. It's about 30 plus books, and this is based on the first one. Because you start at the beginning.
Okay, that's interesting. Does it just go linearly? Is the second movie based on the
No, the
second
second
book?
movie is the third book.
Oh, well, that's
And
tough.
they've said that if they did another movie, they'd like to do, I think it's the sixth book. The books don't have a lot of continuity.
Okay.
There's a lot of world building and like things like that will keep, but usually it's a western. It's D rolls into a town and something's going on.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, this is definitely opening a lot stronger than I remember. Like, this is just instantly kind of unique, and it's got lots of momentum.
Yeah, and it's got just a great atmosphere. I love the atmosphere of this opening scene.
This had to have been a big influence on Gendy Tartakovsky. Like, just the way things are moving reminds me of his art style.
Yeah, I rewatched this the other day in preparation, and I was like, oh, I would be surprised if this didn't influence Samurai Jack.
It has to. Oh my god, it looks exactly in places like Samurai Jack would.
Yeah. The horse death is really violent.
That is. Wow.
Again, I'm not sure how 15 minutes in you were like, this is boring.
I'm not sure either. Okay, but I was a stupid teenager, so I mean, I thought lots of interesting things were boring because I wanted to be contrary.
But this is stupid teenager interesting. Like this is like, oh, there's violence and there's movies and blood. Like this is stupid teenager interesting. It's not like I watched
That's
Ghost
fair.
in the Shell when I was a kid and I was bored because that movie's not really about shooting things.
That's fair. I like this music a lot.
I love the music all throughout. I think it's a really classically like ambient gothic kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely reminding me a lot of like early vampire movies with the music, the soundtrack.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things about Japan that's kind of interesting is how influenced by our culture they are, or
Yeah.
just Western culture in general. So the two biggest influences on the D books are American Westerns. Well, I mean, Westerns. A lot of people that aren't American make Westerns. I mean, spaghetti Westerns aren't American movies.
Right.
And the Hammer horror movies. So much so that, the villain here, he's not named yet, but his name's Count Magnus Lee, which is obviously a reference to Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Hammer stuff is a big influence on the series as well, and Lovecraft. Those are three big influences: Hammer, horror, westerns, and Lovecraft.
Okay, that's interesting because the audience doesn't know this, but they'll know now. But before we started watching this, Eric had me go back and watch Shane, which is that classic western that everyone knows about.
Yeah.
Which was an okay movie. I actually kind of liked it. So, and you're saying that this movie's basically just that?
Yeah. One of the things is I've read the first book 3 times. It's one of those things like I'm gonna read this whole series and I read the first book and then like I don't read the rest of the series. So what's in the book and what's in the movie kind of gets jumbled a little bit. Like they're similar but different.
Right.
But it's the general outline of the story is very Shaney. And there's a big thing at the end where the Japanese movie ends the exact same way as Shane. And the American version does not.
Interesting.
We'll get to it at the ending, but yeah, and then the second film, which is the third book, pulls some stuff from The Searchers.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a
Cool.
lot of like Western influence.
I can definitely see why things like Trigun and stuff would instantly make people say go back and watch this because it's definitely got that same aesthetic in places.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, Trigun's like a space Western, but it's that like high tech Western.
This reminds me a lot of just aesthetically what would happen if the world of Blade Runner went like 1,000 years into the future and everything was destroyed
And ruled by vampires.
and ruled by vampires. It kind of looks like that. Okay, that guy is either way too tall or he's standing on a horse, which is not practical.
We're gonna. Are you talking about Magnus Lee?
I guess.
Is he a vampire guy? Is he a vampire?
Well, the guy with the long hair that's got like I think swords on his back.
Oh, that's D.
Oh, that's D. Okay.
Okay, I thought you were way behind me.
Oh no, I'm just like a second or two.
Okay. Um, yeah, that's D.
Okay. He's cool. He looks cool.
There are size issues in this film. Some of them are hilarious. Um, it
That's just the thing I've noticed with older anime films.
Yeah,
is just
I was
that
gonna say.
proportions don't matter to them.
Yeah, it's an '80s anime thing. The Fist of the North Star movie's really bad at it.
Oh, it's hilarious. I love Fist of the North Star movies because of it.
But there's a couple of moments in this movie where it's just hilariously like, well, that's not even like I've seen what his sword looks like, and now it's 6 feet long. So I should note before we get to a lot of talking, this is an old anime dub. If you have to be ready for old anime dubs,
Yeah.
none of them are legitimately good.
Yeah.
So much so that we
It's-
redubbed Akira.
This is one of those things where I'm like, I don't think the dialogue, just from the way you're describing it, plays that much into the story. But yes, I'm betting some of the dubbing is going to be pretty bad coming up.
D's pretty good all throughout.
Okay.
He's really good. Everyone else has some questionable line readings. I don't know if anybody. Well, there's a kid in this, and the kid's pretty terrible, but everybody else is
Gotcha.
serviceable for the time period.
Well, this woman isn't bad. My only issue with this is just like I think it's cutting back to the same angles way too many times.
She's not bad always, but there's a couple of like lines where like they're just kind of bad lines, and she doesn't deliver them the best.
Gotcha.
Anytime she has to like actually have emotion, she's not great. Um, so I don't want to go through this whole movie and just point out differences, although I'm gonna point out differences between the book and the movie. In the book, her big thing is that she like takes off her clothes, like she's wearing just like a cloak, and like D is kind of momentarily distracted, and that's why she's able to whip him. And she kind of takes that as a sign of like, oh well, you're not that good. Like you were able to be distracted by a naked woman, and then he just breaks out, and she's like, oh wait, you're really good.
I actually think this is better. Just the fact that she tries to whip it and he doesn't even care.
Yeah,
I think that just makes him instantly a cooler character.
yeah. He's very much like a man with no name. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue.
Yeah. That's fine. I think he probably suits this more.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so this seems like it's going to end up being a pretty simple story, but I kind of like that about it.
It is. It's a very simple story.
Okay.
The D stories, I've only read the first 3 books, but from what I understand, they tend to stay very simple stories. With maybe,
Okay.
like, all of its craziness and complexity comes for, like, really weird monsters and, like, things like that. But the stories themselves are, really classic, like, standard Western stories.
I like Dee's voice. Who is that? He sounds really familiar.
You know what? When I watched this the other day, I meant to look it up because he has a yell later where he breaks, like he kind of breaks character. Like it's not Dee's voice, it's just that guy yelling.
Right.
And that sounded really familiar. I'm gonna look it up now.
Okay. If you hadn't explained some of this, I would probably be a little confused because she said Kiss of a Noble and she's got like the vampire bite mark, so it's like a really intriguing premise right off the bat without knowing anything.
So this cloud thing haunts my dreams, and it's the scariest thing that's ever been created. It's just a cloud that just descends on you and eats you.
That is kind of terrifying. Oh, I'm starting to see some of the Shane stuff immediately with this kid. Okay, I bet I know where this is going.
Now, I can tell you there are 30 books, so there is no question about whether Dee's dead at the end of this or not, like there is with Shane.
Gotcha. This kid is awful. He has one line so far, but you're right, that is awful.
He's really bad, and he just starts talking for no reason.
Oh, he just keeps talking too.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Dee is just he's a really just like working voice actor. I think when I'm looking at like his roles, the one
Yeah.
you would probably know is Charles Z. Britannia from Code Geass.
Oh, Code Geass? Cool.
Yeah.
Cool, okay.
But he's in everything. He's in Digimon. He's a Zulongmon in Digimon. He's in
Oh,
Bobobo
cool.
Bobo.
That show is ridiculous. Okay, that makes sense that he'd be there.
And he's Manzu the Saw in Samurai Champloo.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've seen him in a couple of things. That's cool. I'm kind of digging this. I don't know what the hell I was thinking like 5, 10 years ago. This is interesting.
Well, and this it happens really big in the sequel. I love the idea from the books that people don't just know the weaknesses of vampires.
Yeah.
There's crosses everywhere, like on top of all these buildings, and like we do it a lot in the second one, and like it's just a thing where I'm like, yeah, I get that like this is how you do these movies, but it's way cooler if nobody knows. It makes the vampires scarier.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And of course, when we get to the future, we just start building old Western buildings
Gotcha.
because that's what we would do.
This guy, his voice does not sound like it's coming from that body. Oh God, some of this voice acting. I
He
mean,
kinda
you're right. You have to be ready for it, but like even so, even by like '80s anime standards.
No, you have not watched enough 80s anime. This is pretty standard. Um, he he kind of reminds me of Jace.
May Well, I do remember that like most of voice acting stuff for this early on was done in like Texas, which is why everyone has southern accents. Maybe that's just
Or
what's bugging me about it.
there's also England.
Oh yeah,
Because I want to say it's Demon Sage Shinjuku. People in that
right.
movie have British accents for no reason, even though it's set in Shinjuku.
That's hilarious.
Um, D kind of avoids the nationality problem because it's just a barren wasteland. Like it could be anywhere.
Yeah, well that's cool. I'm surprised we haven't got like a live action American adaptation of this yet.
We've been trying.
Have we?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
one of
that
those
makes
things that's
sense.
in development for like that's always in development.
Yeah.
And there was
Okay.
almost an American comic written by Jimmy Palmiotti.
Oh, I could. That sounds like it could be really cool.
Yeah. Well, and now there's this animated series that's supposed to be coming out, and they're doing a Kickstarter to do a comic book. So we will finally maybe get an American D comic.
So this is just an anime thing, but like when she whips out her whip, the spacing for the alley just is completely lost, and he's like suddenly 5 feet away. Oh, this is really interesting. It's almost like the classic Western thing of like, oh, she's probably a prostitute kind of thing, except now it's a vampire bite.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm really digging the score too. It's kind of perfectly moody.
Yeah. Greco he's bad in this, but he's even worse in the book.
Is it really?
Yeah, he's a lot rapier in the book.
Okay.
Which I mean is a thing with Kikuchi. The guy who writes the books, his name is Hideyuki Kikuchi.
Yeah.
And there's a whole thing. There's a whole genre of horror that we don't have in America, which is like like sexual horror. Like we don't really do that kind of things. But it's big in Japan, and
Yeah.
Europe, and he does a lot of that. Specifically his Wicked City books. D doesn't really have that. Like D is probably his most tame work, But like it comes in a little bit here and there.
Interesting. Okay, I guess that makes sense. It seems like Japan just overall is more okay with like using sexuality in your plots than
Yeah,
America is.
yeah. Which is one of the things I hate when people complain about it, where I'm like, but it's a different culture. Like, it's not the same thing. Like, it would be problematic if like it was an American work, but Japan is a different culture. Like, you have to take that into account.
Yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from.
I love that we do like the worst. I mean, it's not good, but I love that we do the worst, just like info dumping, where it's just like, you remember what happened 50 years ago? What? 50 years ago?
That's exactly what that is. That's fun.
And that's really glossed over. In the in the book, like they really go into that. Like they created this camp for this girl who Count Lee decided was going to be his bride, and then he just started murdering people until they gave her to him.
Huh, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to check out these books then, because they sound like they're distinctly different.
They are they're very like a lot of times like when you talk about something, it's like, well, you have to give it its premise. D
Right.
doesn't have that because everything is weird. Um, like Greco, who's the guy that's hitting on Doris. He gets kind of like a power armor in the book. Like it goes all over the place. Like they'll do whatever they want. And
Well, if they're all as contained as you say they are, I guess that's not much of an issue then.
yeah, well, and it all kind of fits in this kind of future historical world.
Right.
Um, the translations are okay. Like they get better as they go along.
Huh, interesting. Okay, I'll have to look into more of those then.
Uh,
This is a really stereotypical Western line, but I think it works.
yeah. I love in the store where she's like, I'll need these things. She's like, we're all out. And she's like, but they're on the shelves.
That was fun.
I also like I know a lot of times they come up with reasons for like why like townspeople have to be like terrible to the main characters so they seem more isolated.
Yeah,
Saying I can't sell you things because people will think of vampire shops here, that's a bit of a stretch.
a little bit. I like the design for his sword. That looks really cool.
Yeah. Well, the one he's holding right now is not his sword. That's he just
Well, the one you put
yeah
down
yeah
earlier.
yeah.
Yeah.
His sword looks really cool in the second one too. Where they care more about those kinds of things. There's a lot of weird stylistic choices.
Right.
Like for some reason his cape has those like triangles on it. Like I don't know why they did that. Like it's just a black cape. Obviously, you do not know who's talking right now.
Yeah, what is that?
You'll find out.
Okay.
It
I'm just thinking he has like a split personality.
it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, this series is weird.
He looks a lot like um he looks a lot like Alucard
Yeah.
in some of the later stuff in Helsing.
Well, and Alucard has this thing about him where like he's kind of feminine-y, and
Yeah.
that's a huge thing in the books. Well, first of all, like half of the books are just like half of every sentence is just telling you how beautiful D is.
Right.
But the guy who does the artwork for the books, because Japanese novels, these light novels, they have like an illustration like every chapter. Um,
Right.
and the guy that does it is Amano, who did the artwork for the first, I think, 7 Final Fantasy games.
Oh, interesting.
And so he has a really pastel-y style, and his D is very feminine. So yeah, like it's like D's kind of feminine here, but like he's really feminine in the books. I mean the way his face looks.
Interesting. Okay.
Like if you just look up like some covers, like it like you can really tell. Um,
I'm kind of surprised by because a lot of the times when you see anime adaptations of manga, some of the problems I have with manga in general is just that since it's one artist doing everything, sometimes a lot of characters just look too similar to each other,
Yeah.
and that's not a problem here at all. Everyone looks really distinct.
Well, it's probably a bit easier because it's a book series and there's like 5 illustrations to go off of.
Yeah, that's true.
Doris had a line there that I think is just one of I don't know if it's I think it's a terrible line, but it's also badly delivered. Where she says, "My father was a werewolf hunter. Want to know about vampires?" He'd say, "Ask the vampire hunters." And I was like, "Well, yeah, okay. Here's the voice that was talking."
Oh, okay. So wait, how was he talking to him earlier?
It because his hand.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's right. You're out of step with me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh.
And don't worry, that's never explained.
Oh, okay. That's gonna be my next question.
Nope, it's a parasite. That is literally all we are told.
Oh, well, that's
Or
fun.
I guess it'd be close to a symbiote.
So, you and I both like things that just throw us into a world and that don't require explanation. I get the feeling that for some people this is going to be kind of annoying.
Yeah. Well, it probably had the added benefit when it first came out of like, oh well, it's Japan. It's just weird.
Yeah,
Whereas now, like, people are much more accustomed to anime, so I feel like it has that defense less.
which might be why it's fading out, like you said earlier.
Yeah. It's also
This
just
is just such a cool, like, gothic showdown. I like it.
it's also just dated. I mean, a lot of animes, like one of the things about
Yeah,
Akira is that Akira still looks beautiful.
yeah.
Like this movie looks good for its time, but like a lot of things from the '80s, like it's kind of fading because people don't want to go back and watch shows and movies that look like this.
I guess that's kind of a shame, though, because I kind of appreciate how almost simplistic some of this stuff is.
Yeah. Um. So there's this guy here named Reginsei.
Is
Um.
that the guy with the blade thingies?
Yeah. In the books, in the book, he is part of a completely other like band of hunters that just kind of end up in the story, and he wants to bang Doris, and uh, he's more of like a rival character.
Right.
So the way that they adapted it is they just fold him in to make him one of Lee's minions, and then I'll point them out as they come along. But the rest of his band of hunters are just kind of sprinkled throughout the movie as like background monsters.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That was kind of how they consolidated that.
So, what was the point of punching and then jumping into the air and then landing?
Cause cool.
That's true. It is kind of cool, but like I don't know how you get from that to you're better than I expected.
I have that a
And that
lot with.
sword just went to ridiculous weird proportions, but that's okay. This is weird, but I'm really digging it. I don't know what it is, but I'm just kind of
It's
into
got
it.
a great atmosphere,
Yeah.
and it's weird, but like
Yeah,
it just kind of owns it.
it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it knows exactly what it is and it's not apologizing for it. I like that. Especially now that like a lot of my problem with modern anime is that like we have to get through like a chunk of episodes or chapters that deal with okay, here's everything you would ever possibly need to know about this world and the characters we're gonna follow. Now let's get into the story.
Yeah, D is very much a man with no name. Like you kind of learn a little bit about D's backstory in this movie and in the first book, and that's kind of it. Like you kind of know who his papa is, and that is all you really learn about his backstory.
That's cool. I can dig that.
Um,
So is D's a vampire then,
he's
right?
half.
Half, okay.
Um,
Because he just healed really quickly, and I just kind of figured.
yeah, there's a weird uh Lamika, I think it's Lamika, is the vampire girl there. She refers to him as a Dan Peel, and I think that's what they call him in the second movie too, in the English dub. That's a weird translation of just D Empire.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, it's a weird translation of de-vampire, which is, I guess, a word for half vampire. So Dan Peel is a half vampire. It's a word that's only used in this movie, and I think the second one, or they might have a different word that's also not vampire in the second one. I can't remember.
Gotcha. Okay. I always love it when bad guys do nothing but sit dramatically in a
And
chair
talk to
waiting
themselves
and talk to
about how great their
themselves.
plan is.
Yeah, it's great. And like not even like in a comfortable position. They're sitting there and their arm is gonna get tired.
Yeah. I I like that he's old. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I really like about Lee that probably were less unique when it happened, but now feels fresh. Where like he's not sexy, he's old, he's like a really classic vampire.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and certainly in anime, we do not get that anymore. Everyone is young and hip and sexy and wears sunglasses and can walk in the sun.
Which is I guess that's an interesting contrast then between Lee and D, since D is like exactly what you're describing for what later anime characters would become.
That's true, and D's kind of like one of the first. Like, I think arguably Blade predates him, but Blade isn't what we think of Blade until the movies.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's a very different thing. I think.
Um, I think there's an interesting thing that like the Japanese kind of maybe got from us that we grew up or that we grew out of and they didn't, which is the like hyper confident hero. Like
Yeah,
Japan has a lot of shows where like the main character is just the best. And D's very much that, and that's kind of out of a tradition that we don't have anymore. We don't make our
yeah.
characters just the best.
Well, we've kind of gotten to this place where like we've acknowledged that we've had this tradition of making our characters the best, and so now the humor and the arcs come from a character thinking they're the best and knowing very quickly that they aren't.
Or they're really good, but they're also like stubborn man children.
Yeah, yeah,
But the like stoic, just like I know that I'm just competent. I'm really good. We don't really do that anymore. And anime still like anime. There's a lot of animes where the main character is just the most powerful person in the room always. Like Alucard's like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, Alucard's like that. I mean, Dragon Ball Z's always kind of been like that.
Well, Dragon Ball Z at least gives the bad guys, like they're powerful. Like Fist of the North Star, like nobody's ever a threat, but at least I guess in that show, when somebody is a threat, it's a big deal.
Yeah, that's
But it
true.
also means that there's 40 episodes of the main character just mowing through people.
This is really freaky, and I love it.
Yeah, I love the atmosphere. Okay, there's a flying guy here. He's one of Ray Gansey's group from the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna point them out as they come through because they all get like a little scene where it's like, do you remember him from the book? And then they're gone.
We are like half an hour into this, and it feels like we just started 5 minutes ago. I'm
Yeah,
really digging this.
this big giant guy is one of his group.
Oh, cool. I'm loving all these designs. Like it's wonderfully unique.
Yeah, and the second one of my issues with the second one is it feels a little bit more polished. It feels a little bit too polished, and the designs are a little bit too similar. Like there's still creepy, weird things, but they're very similar designs. I feel. One of the things I
Interesting.
like about this movie is that nothing feels like it's in the same movie.
Yeah, yeah. Like it just feels like we walked past like a Cronenberg movie, and now we're into like more traditional fight anime.
Yeah, I also like that. Like I feel like this is how simplistic this story is, and one of the reasons I really like it is, uh, D's first course of action is, oh, you hired me to fight a vampire? I'm just gonna go to his castle. Like, there's no like intrigue, there's no like battle of wits. He's just like, I'm gonna go to the castle and kill the vampire.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I wasn't expecting us to storm the castle this early.
Um, this Shadowcat thing is controlled by a witch that's part of Ray Ginsei's group. There she is. You'll
Oh,
see
that's
you'll see
cool.
her in a couple of seconds. But she's uh, also one of his partners in the books.
That's just a cool idea. I don't know like concretely what you would call that power, but it's really cool.
Yeah, and she's kind of important because Dee stumbles on her and murders her, and she is way away from the group. Where Reganse is, it's just like that Shadowcat thing is like jumping around, killing things and fighting, and she's way away doing a spell, and Dee murders her, and then Reganse gets angry and is like that's kind of his whole grudge is that like you killed the most powerful member of my team. And
That's
I
cool
want to
though.
bang
Like
the
it
girl.
feels like classic like Western rivalry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. D is very much a Western. Like it's like I think only The Dark Tower falls in the same genre of like gothic horror, epic fantasy Western.
That's a good point.
And even The Dark
Well, like
Tower
I
only
wouldn't be
was,
surprised if like stuff from Dark Tower might have been influenced by some of this too.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
You just gotta feel. I don't. It's hard to say. I haven't gone back to those books, but now that a movie's coming out, I probably will.
Yeah, I'm also gonna. I have a friend who's on the last one. He's been going through them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It might be fun to just like go back and reread all of that. But
I'm gonna go through them before the movie. I just don't know when I'm gonna go through them.
I can't believe that's actually filming. When I saw set photo, I was like, oh, this is happening. Okay.
Yeah, but they're also kind of underwhelming. Like I don't know what
They
I
are.
was expecting, but like when I saw Roland, I was like, well, yeah, he looks like a guy in a cowboy suit, and then like they're like Randall Flagg, and I was like, yeah, it's Matthew McConaughey in a black shirt. Like I don't know what I was expecting it to be, but like there's nothing about seeing those images that makes me go, oh man, I'm like this is it, it's happening. Like hopefully I'll
Yeah.
get that with the trailer.
I imagine some of that might just be added CG. But speaking of McConaughey, if they made this into a movie 5 years ago, I think he might be pretty good for
Oh, he'd be
D.
perfect for D.
He, if they make it now, I bet you everyone's gonna try and make Tom Hiddleston D. But 5 years ago would be
Tom
McConaughey.
Hiddleston wouldn't be a bad D. He might have
No, he
to.
would
He
be a
might have
great D.
to.
It's just like he's the guy you go to for everything now.
Yeah, which is weird because like he hasn't done anything since Loki. Like he did that Del
That
Toro
Hank
movie.
Williams biopic.
Oh yeah, he did that. I was thinking of Crimson Peaks.
Oh yeah, he did Crimson
But
Peak, which I
nobody,
really like. Everyone hates it, but I really
I
like
haven't
that
seen
movie.
it. I meant to, and I just haven't gotten around to it.
I think you'll like it. I think you'd appreciate some of the stuff it's trying to do.
So because apparently my only role is to bring up the differences between the movie and the book. In the book, he rushes in and to like face Count Lee, and then Count Lee's like trapdoor, and then he falls into all this stuff.
Well, I like that it comes before. I think it just gives it more fun, more classic anime Storm the Castle vibe.
Yeah.
This is such a weird mix of mythologies. I really like it.
One of the weird things, it's in the movie, it's in the book, is like Dee keeps being like, "Oh, I've heard of you." Like all of these monsters have like a reputation outside of this story, and none of them seem really that important. Like when he stabbed Reginse, he's like, "Oh, I've heard of someone that can bend space around him." And like he knows who these sisters are, but none of them seem that important, like to the world that like they would have a reputation. I don't know.
I guess that'd be another question of just like, so vampires took over the world, but if all these other mythical creatures exist, then why didn't they?
Vampires took over the world, and a lot of these are because of like genetic breeding and like creating
Oh.
weird mutants and monsters, and also like dark sciences and magics.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
the vampires made the world this way. And so
See,
a
that's a
lot
really
of
cool spin because, like, so often now we get like vampires are the half breeds between real demons and humans, and they're like on the lowest string of like demonic creatures.
yeah, no,
But to
they're
like
kind of
make
the
it so
top
that they're the
sisters. Yeah.
grandfathers of all the other creatures is interesting.
And other mutants are from Nuclear Fallout. There's also some.
Oh, okay. Nuclear Fallout does that, yeah.
Yeah. There's another series that I've not read that Kikuchi started writing that follows a character during that time period of like when vampires were in control. So he's flushing that time period out too.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But I haven't read any of those books. It's called like Noble Grey Lancer or something like that.
Just based on some of this, I feel like I really want to check those books out now, just out of curiosity.
Yeah. I really like the world.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, this weird frog guy. Again, you're a couple seconds behind me, but this weird frog guy. He's also from Riganse's band.
Why are they all separated?
Because it would take too much time to actually have that subplot, so they just make them like blink and you miss some minion monsters.
Yeah. Some of this is just freaky and weird and terrifying.
Yeah.
I kind of love it.
You'll get that with the second one, too. The second one also has a lot of just weird things. If nothing else, I can't say Kikuchi is not imaginative. He comes up with some really weird ideas.
Well, especially if he's been doing this for like 30 books to keep the creativity going, that's something.
Yeah, and like I said, I've only read the first 3, but like people still like love them. And one of the things I'm really happy with is that we've kept publishing them. Like it's not like we got like 5 books in and then we stopped publishing them, which has happened to a number of like light novels we try to bring to America.
Yeah.
Like Wicked City's like that. We only had the first 3 Wicked City books. Even though there's only 9, we only got the first 3. But D sells well enough that they keep they keep putting them out, which is cool.
What's the schedule for that? Like once a year?
It's got to be more than once a year because we're up to like 22, and we've been publishing them since like 2004.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, we're still a little behind Japan, but not as much as we were in 2004.
This is freaky and really classic Dracula. I'm digging it.
Yeah.
So Doris's head keeps changing shape and it's distracting.
Yeah. Sometimes she has like a 5 head, and sometimes she has like a normal 4 head, and it's weird.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, but I just keep staring now.
Yeah, it's this weird thing with old anime where like it feels like they didn't have character models. Like it almost feels like scene to scene they were like hand drawing everything.
That is what it feels like. Yeah.
Again, I'm a couple seconds ahead of you. He's huge when he's holding her. Like he is ridiculously tall.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I'm trying not to specifically call out like scenes, but like he's animated way taller than her.
It just the way he's animated right there. It's like if he walks through a door, he's gonna have to duck.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Like it's just weird and distracting.
So it's probably built with high doorways.
That's true. It's probably just like one massive ceiling. I'm surprised just how quickly this story is moving. Like, I really figured that we would just sit there and wait in town and get to know the townsfolk for like half an hour, and we didn't.
This is why I'm saying I don't understand. Like 15 minutes in, how you were bored.
I don't know.
It's a really fast movie.
It is. It is. Like we're 40 minutes into this. Jeez.
Young Dan was a fool. I mean, to be fair, it's not a full-length film. It's 90 minutes, 80 minutes, something like that.
It says here hour 21, so yeah, just about 80.
Yeah. So it's not like we still have 2 hours to go and we've burned through so much, but...
No, that's true, but even, like, I guess this is a horrible comparison considering how bad they get, but like, you look at like 75-minute DC animated movies, and we don't seem to get this much done in half an hour there either.
That's true. So this whole thing with D like fighting with his vampire side, I kind of have a hard time believing that wasn't some influence on David Goyer's Blade scripts. Like I bet you David Goyer has seen this film.
Oh, absolutely. Just watching some of this now, it feels like that has to be part of it.
Yeah, not saying that like it's such an original idea that someone that's a vampire is like fighting with it, but at the same time, it's very similar. Being a half vampire that has to fight their cravings. Although unlike Blade, because, D's awesome, he doesn't need a serum or anything. He just works through the pain.
I guess this is one of those things where like I can't point to you where any of this was done before D, but now that D's doing it, it feels so obvious and natural that everyone's done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's just that kind of weird influence of like, well, duh, how do we live without this?
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, I have this theory that that Berserk is the first thing to have a character with a giant sword, and I can't find anything before it that did it, but I don't know if that's true. And these kind of like that, where like I feel like at least I know it has to be in Japan. It like this must have been hugely influential. I mean, the books are still running. Like this must be
Yeah.
hugely important in Japan. I don't know about in America. Oh, that's really violent.
Probably not in America, but it seems like so much of the anime that we get ported over here has some connection to D. And even stuff like Samurai Jack, it feels like Tarkovsky's got to have seen this.
Yeah. Which
There's no way he
which
hasn't.
isn't anything I ever thought about until I watched it just the other day in preparation for this.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about the Samurai Jack revival a lot lately, so I guess that's
I
just where
was
came.
too, and I think that's also why I was, there. Because I watched that the little 15-minute documentary thing, that the behind the scenes thing they did.
Yeah, that's exciting. I can't wait for that.
So yeah, maybe it's just we were both in a Samurai Jack place in our heads, so watching this, it's like, oh yeah, this probably influenced Jack in some way.
You know what might be fun to go back and do commentaries for is like the Samurai Jack opening movie.
Oh yeah, that's one of those weird movies. I always have this thing with like opening pilot movies that are actually 3 episodes. It seems to be a reoccurring thing where
Yeah.
the first 2 episodes feel like a movie, and then the third episode feels like a completely ancillary. Like, well, this is the first episode,
Yeah.
and Jack has that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it works better there though because it feels very clearly like first act, second act, third act.
Yeah, but it's
Like the Superman pilot, the introduction for that animated series is very much like this is a story that's 40 minutes long and a tacked on episode.
yeah. Transformers Animated is a little bit like that too.
Oh yeah, yeah. But no, that'd be fun to go back and talk about. Samurai Jack is just such a good show.
I love how violent this is.
This is great. Yeah.
You're gonna see in a second. D's sword becomes insanely long, like humorously long.
He's done it in a couple of frames already.
No, this is the worst.
Oh wow.
Like it
What the
becomes
actual-
Lance size.
What is that? Does he like control its size at will?
No, that's just bad animation.
Okay,
That's not like I know there's a lot of weird stuff in this movie. That is not one of them.
I really like the fact that apparently everyone's got a sprinkler system attached to their body because blood doesn't just gush out; it like sprinkles.
Yeah,
out.
yeah. It's not like a samurai movie where like it's like a hose. It's like a sprinkler. It's
Yeah,
small
okay,
little streams.
I don't know why I'm surprised by how bloody this is. I feel like I should know this by now.
Well, and I mean, this was part of that wave of like, oh man, Japan makes cartoons and they aren't for kids.
Yeah. Well, this seems like something that you would design intentionally for that older crowd.
Yeah. Well, and I assume that the people who read the books are somewhat older, mid-teens to, adult.
Probably, yeah. I don't remember. It's been a while, but I don't remember Akira being this violent.
I don't know if Akira's is violent, but it's got really weird imagery.
It does,
and
yeah.
everything's really moist in that movie when it gets weird, and I feel like that just makes it feel grosser.
Yeah, there's definitely more psychological body horror stuff, especially towards the end of that movie.
Yeah. And I feel like, so even if it's not that violent, it just feels gross.
Yeah.
So you remember it as being that way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure anything in that. Well, I mean, they cut a dude in half and we saw his insides. Maybe it is more violent than Ghost in the Shell, but
There's nothing about it that's like off-putting because I've seen violent stuff all the time. It's just like it's surprising that
it's probably
I'm
because the
watching
art
an
style
anime where I'm seeing all these guts.
It's probably because the art style is kind of dated. Like, I bet you that's part of what makes it jarring.
That's true. It's not as clean as like I'm expecting it to be.
But it makes perfect sense when you remember that like Hammer horror films are like a big part of the inspiration for this. Oh,
So not only are the character designs cool, but I love like some of the costumes.
Yeah.
They're so cool.
Yeah. And Dan, who's the brother, not Dan Torrey, obviously. He's got shoulder pads, and they're okay. They don't look bad.
No, they're not bad at all. I like his gun too. I think the gun looks cool.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. I really like Doris's outfit. Like it's
Oh
kind
yeah.
of sexual in that way that like anime outfits are sexual, but it's kind of timeless. Like it's kind of Victorian. It's kind of westerny. Um, it doesn't like find itself in any specific time period, and so like I kind of think it's a really cool looking. I mean, cool is probably the wrong word, but it's a very distinct outfit.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It definitely feels like it could go anywhere.
She should be a Disney princess.
What's with the weird switch ruby thing on Dee's hat? Is that just an aesthetic thing?
Switch Ruby thing.
Like he's got like this weird silver box thing on his hat.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that is. He's got that in the books too.
It just looks like it's supposed to be a button, but then sometimes it looks close up. It looks like it's like a jewel, or
I don't know. It's on his hat in the books too. I think it's just an aesthetic thing. He thinks it's
oh.
pretty.
With how weird this is getting, I'm not sure like what's part of the atmosphere and what's
For all I
you
know, it could be important. After book 3, I don't know. There's the typical I'm a villain, so I'm gonna stick my tongue out anime thing.
yeah. Oh, I think we're on the same time now.
No, I waited a couple seconds before I said it.
Oh, so am I ahead?
I don't know.
I think I am. Yeah.
How are you ahead?
I have no idea.
What's happening this very second?
Dee and that weird white-haired guy are fighting.
Okay, that's what's happening on mine too. But I mean,
It's hard to describe what they're doing because it keeps
of
cutting in weird slow-mo.
Yeah, and we keep using the same animation of Dee running forward.
Yeah, so I can't tell.
Which is also the DVD menu picture.
Is it really? That's hilarious.
Yeah. That candle's a really cool idea. You didn't see it used there, and there's a reason for that. But that candle's a cool idea. That kind of emulates sunlight. As I understand it, because it's kind of confusing. It kind of emulates sunlight, so like it's like vampire kryptonite.
Oh,
But it doesn't emulate sunlight to like the extent that like it will like make a vampire burn. It just like makes them weak.
I can do that. That's cool. There's a thing like that in Buffy.
Is there?
Yeah, Willow tries to create like an orb of sunshine for Buffy to use and take out vampires. That's a season 4 or 5 thing, I think.
I vaguely remember that. You know that series more than I do. And I've watched that series like 3 times through, and you still know it better than I do.
I go back and watch all of Buffy and Angel every fall, so that's just one of those things.
Oh, do you have like a set thing where like every fall you just is it like an October thing?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's just like every time I'm in the mood for Buffy and Angel, it happens to be like October and fall, and like every time I'm in the mood for Avatar, it just happens to be summer.
That's interesting. Are you watching Avatar now?
I am. I actually just started rewatching book 1 the other day.
You know, you and I don't particularly care for the CinemaSins.
No, we don't.
But one of my favorite jokes they ever did is for the Avatar movie. It goes book 1 water, and he goes, "Well, that's just wrong."
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that then. That'd be fun.
We had a brief second of nudity. Talked
We
over
did.
that.
Why was that even there?
Because it's anime.
I guess it just felt like it was really unnecessary. Like he got his
No, it's
thing,
really
but he had to do
unnecessary.
that anyway.
Well, he does mention that he's now sexually attracted to her. Now that he's a vampire.
This is true.
Which, by the way, he's a vampire now.
So, are the horses all wearing armor,
There's
or are they all robots?
They're cyborg horses. Cyborgs are different than robots.
Okay,
That's
cool.
a Fooly Cooly reference.
Oh,
I don't know why. There's one line where the dad just yells, "Cyborgs are different than robots" in Fooly Cooly. Okay, so there's a whole thing that was cut from the book, where that doctor, when I talked before about how vampires can make you forget things that you've learned about them, he learns that garlic is a weakness of vampires. I think it's garlic, and he uses it against them, and so he forces Lee to leave, but then he realizes that he has no memory of what just happened. So he's a little bit more interesting of a character in the book.
so is this all like just traditional vampire Dracula weaknesses? Sunlight, garlic,
Yes.
stake through the heart.
Yes.
Okay.
Which again is something I appreciate. That it's one of those things like at the time was pretty common, but now it feels really fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of cool.
There's a couple of things that they throw in, like earlier D says that um, vampires consider women's blood impure on the red moon or the blood moon, and so that he won't like Lee won't come for her that night. Like that's kind of stuff that's not like traditional vampire lore, but it feels very much like that. Well, that makes sense. Like that.
Well, it feels like really old school Victorian thinking.
Yeah, yeah. And the vampires are called nobles. They're called nobles in the dub. They're called aristocrats in the Japanese version. I
That's
forget
really cool.
which version they are in the book. I forget what we translate it to, but it's that sense of it.
I just love the idea that vampires have kind of just like taken over society, like especially now that we've got so much vampire fiction.
Well, and that they're technologically advanced. Like they use science and they like genetically engineer humans and they do all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then they lose control and the world kind of falls apart again. Like it's such a weird, like it's one of the things I love about it is that it's such a like just the idea of like, well, vampires took over the world. You're like, oh, so that's your story? No. Vampires are done taking over the world, but they've like genetically tampered with things, and they've used science, and they built spaceships. They've gone to space. Like, oh, it's about vampires in space? No, that's not the movie. That's not the story I'm telling. My story is a western that's set after all of these things have happened.
That's hilarious.
And vampires have gone to space. That's a thing. Because we have spaceships. Like, it makes sense. They went to space.
Just thinking about vampire physics or lack of physics for vampires, I guess they'd be better for space travel.
Yeah, they're not so special in space when everyone can float.
I forgot to mention this earlier when the fight was happening, but D mostly always has his cloak wrapped around him. We got a brief shot of like his clothes underneath the cloak, and it looks really cool. I just love his design.
Yeah.
This kid's voice though, it keeps grating on me.
Yeah, and he's so self-righteous. Like, everything he says is the most self-righteous thing. Like, we just watched D, like, go and, like, cut somebody's hand off and murder a bunch of monsters. He's like, D doesn't like to kill like you do.
I wish that someone would just eat him.
And she's kind of in, I'm gonna say the name wrong. I think it's Lamika, whatever her name is.
The blue hair girl?
Yeah. She's kind of insufferable in this. Like, her voice actress is really unlikable. Or the way the voice actress is playing it, not the voice actress herself. I don't know her personally.
The performance is a little bit just kind of like pompous, but I'm not sure if that's the character or if that's the voice.
It is the character, but it should be more nuanced for what's going to happen.
Oh, okay.
And more nudity for no reason.
So, do any of these characters come back to the later books or no?
No.
No? Okay.
As far as I know, there are no reoccurring characters throughout the D books except for D.
Interesting. Okay, and then not even for the movies?
No one comes back in the next movie.
Oh, okay.
Well, you have to remember, the next movie is made in, like, 2000. And it's an entirely different production staff. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is 1985 or 1984?
I don't know when this comes out.
Okay, but this is definitely the 80s.
Yeah.
But then the next one is like 20 years later.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons people like the second one so much more, is that it's sleek and modern looking, and it's done by the guy who did I can't remember what his name is, but he did Ninja Scroll, and he did the Highlander animated movie.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy has a style that's just really aesthetically pleasing, that people really like, and he works on Kikuchi Works a lot. He also did Wicked City and Demon City Shinjuku, which are also both Hideyuki Kikuchi books.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I love this isn't unique to this movie. It's been in other things since it and maybe before it, but we take what is traditionally like a sexy shot of like looking down a shirt, like the way we'd shoot something like that for Temptation, with a vampire shooting just a neck. There's something It's not supposed to be humorous, but I find it kind of humorous.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. There's a lot of this just where like the way the movie is quote unquote shot because it's all animation,
Yeah.
but just the way it's designed and stuff, it just feels so kind of skewed that I'm into it, even though I know even though like narratively there probably shouldn't be any emotion associated with some of this stuff, I'm still getting into it.
Yeah.
So like that shot you're talking about with her like down the neck, like it probably is funny and it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense the way this thing's edited, but I don't know. I just kind of feel for
Well,
D.
it makes perfect sense. It's just like that's the thing I see in vampire movies a lot. Where like the way we shoot it or the way we frame it is the way we would frame like longingly sexually looking at a woman
Right.
in a normal situation. It would be a guy's tempted by a woman, but because it's a vampire, it's their neck, and for some reason, I just think that's kind of funny.
Um. So who animated this? Because it looks really familiar in places. Like it feels like.
I think it's Sunrise. I might be wrong.
Is it Sunrise? Okay, because I was gonna say in places it kind of reminds me of Gundam.
Yeah, I could see that.
Maybe it's the sound effects or something. Because Sunrise has a very particular library of sound effects.
Let's see. It's produced by Aishi Productions,
Oh,
which
okay. I don't
is
know who that
not a
is.
company I'm familiar with.
Okay. Okay, maybe it's just a coincidence then.
I'm looking at
There's
what goes
some
on.
fun stuff here with just like the animation they're playing with, like the color palettes behind them keep changing, and in places it feels like I'm watching a comic book.
Yeah. Uh,
Particularly like a 90s no backgrounds exist comic book.
when D got stabbed there, that was the moment when I was watching through it. Oh no, D's about to get stabbed. I missed it. Um, or I was ahead of it. I was ahead of my own movie. I just knew what was going to happen, thought it would happen. When D gets stabbed and he yells, that's the moment where I was like, oh, he's breaking character. He's just yelling. He doesn't sound like D. He sounds like the guy voicing D.
That's fun. Yeah.
And of course, now the movie's over and, credits.
Oh, yeah, of course. So the way he just kind of stands up is hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about, but it's funny.
Well, he's in pain. And when you're in pain, you stand like half up.
As if you're being laid in a coffin.
Yeah.
I don't know what this guy's weapons are called, but they're really cool.
I think they get a specific name in the books. Because he can control them the way that they like move around.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And I want to say that they're given a name in the book, but I don't remember.
I kind of like just how, like, it doesn't matter what the themes are. It doesn't really matter what like the overarching story is. These are just a bunch of characters doing their thing. Like it's just so simple,
Yeah.
which I'm not used to. Especially with vampire fiction nowadays, because so much of it ends up being like, let's cram as much new mythology into this as possible.
Well, and this is kind of doing that. Like, this is a full to bursting world of ideas. But the
Yeah, but it's not
story is
like
so simple.
the story's simple, and it's not like spending too much time just expositing to us what this world is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then the second one's kind of a chase movie. Like, we kind of cover the range of stories in that the first film is D rolls into a town and, like, stuff is happening. And then the second one is D is chasing someone. Kind of.
That's interesting. I feel like if I was just watching it by myself, I would know even less of what's going on.
Yeah, they don't explain this world at all.
They
I'm
don't.
really surprised that they don't even bother to mention, like, by the way, vampires were running the world, now they're not.
It just puts everything into so much more perspective. It's weird.
Do we still do this like, red line across the screen of, like, oh no! Like, is that still a
Oh
thing
yeah,
in
we totally
anime?
do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think One Punch Man still does that.
I always think it's interesting things that we come up with as like visual cues that don't have any relation to the real world, like just the idea of speed lines in comic books, like that's kind of a really cool thing. Like somebody was like, what if I put lines and it kind of suggests that this thing is moving? Anime has a lot of stuff like that where it's just like it doesn't make any sense in the real world. It's just visual cues.
It's hard to believe that all of us are able to read those the same way. Like, red line goes through a person's face, it's shock,
Yeah.
and there's like no connection to why we would all think that.
Yeah. There's no one that's like, oh, I always thought that was like confusion, and I always thought that was weird that everyone was confused. All these tense moments. Okay, so we kind of talked over it, but the big revelation, well, you've got the subtitles on. I was gonna say the big revelation is that her mom was human.
Yeah.
This is another thing that this does that's very simple, doesn't get into it, that we will overthink to death in the decades following this film. Vampires have kids. It's just vampires can mate with women and have children, and that's all there is to it. We'll overthink that to death like later in other things. I've never understood the idea that of bringing weird realism into vampires, where people are like, well, they're dead, so they wouldn't be able to have sex, and it's like, but they're dead, they wouldn't be able to do anything. I don't understand why you're adding this weird level of realism.
I mean, the moment you say vampires are dead so they can't do things like that, you have to start entering things like, well, they can't breathe, they don't bring air, so how can they speak?
Yeah.
Where does all the light and information go into their brain to make them walk and talk?
Yeah, I've never thought it was weird or silly, the idea that vampires can have children with humans or have children with each other, but there's so many things I've seen where that's a plot point, and they're like, well, why would vampires be able to have children?
So like this, for example, I'm not going to sit here and question why there's a digestive system inside of his hand.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's weird, but I could run with
it.
So
my terrifying death cloud is back. It really is just the scariest thing. Okay, so this is going to be kind of... Okay, what the hand is doing, I'm going to try and explain this.
Okay, I'm confused, that's why.
Okay, so he's kind of a demon. The
hand?
Yeah, the hand is kind of a demon. He's kind of a parasitic demon. And he works off of the 4 elements. He just consumed earth and air, which isn't all 4, but it's 2 of them, so it's letting him do a little bit of something.
Right.
I'm not, doesn't make that much sense, but that's basically what it is. That his powers work off of the 4 elements, and so he consumed 2 of the elements, so he was able to, do more, if that makes sense.
Does he give D any added powers?
Yeah, he can suck out poison and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why I said he's referred to as a parasite, but he's kind of a symbiote where it's a mutually beneficial relationship. I mean, aside from the fact that he won't stop talking and D hates him.
Aside from the fact that he's annoying, it's a beneficial relationship.
Yeah. I love that when D with a single swipe kills the cloud and then it falls in a 1,000 little meat trails. That doesn't make any sense.
We talked a little bit over some of the castle stuff, but I love how just how amorphous all this is. It just seems like everything is a weird fog cloud thing.
Yeah.
I kind of dig that.
And this, I don't know what you'd call this, this section of the castle seems to be way taller than the rest of the castle.
It does. It's also following our good old Star Wars rules of railings only when you don't need them.
No, they have railings everywhere on these things, man. This is a safe
There was the railing up there when you got knocked off, was there?
Yeah, I think there is.
Oh, okay.
There's railings everywhere else, I assume. They thought about this, man. Vampires don't just throw things together like the Empire. They think about safety.
There won't ever be a Vampire Hunter D Robot Chicken sketch where people are cleaning up bodies on the bottom floor because there's no railings.
Well, there wouldn't be anyways because they're all vampires. They can just float. They don't even need the railings.
Um, this whole movie has got like an alternating blue and pinkish tint,
Yeah.
and I kind of dig it.
Yeah, I pink and blue are not color schemes you usually see. So
Yeah. I used to like I was expecting like getting halfway into this and like talking about ideas and themes and stuff. Like no, I like it and that's all I want to say.
yeah. I mean, it's not a super idea theme driven movie.
Which is cool, which is fine by me. I mean, like neither is Pacific Rim, but I love that.
Yeah, it's very much like the old school western, just like it's kind of about like a man, and like a man comes into town, he sets things right, and then he leaves.
So
Also
I know this is supposed to
vampires.
be creepy, but this is kind of hilarious.
How he destroys the guy's head.
It destroys a guy's head and then also just throws him all over the place.
Yeah,
That's kind of fun.
yeah. Also violent.
Very violent. It's fun. It's not fun for him, but it is fun for me.
I also love that there is a legion of like cult that we didn't see ever before in this film, that we're all living in that castle.
Of course they were.
I don't think they're in the book. I don't remember, but I don't think they're in the book. I've read the book 3 times, but the last time I read the book was 2-3 years ago, so it's not fresh in my mind, but I don't think they're in the book. Also, there's a shot coming up involving an eye that I think is one of the coolest shots ever. You'll see it in a second.
Those teeth look fantastic too.
Yeah. Did you see him pull the knife out of his eye and his eye go right back?
That's awesome. That's awesome. But the fact that the blade goes in and he doesn't even flinch. It just goes in. That's hilarious. I kind I kind of don't even know like what's really at stake here, but I don't care.
It's just Doris. That's all it is.
Is it just Doris?
Yeah,
It's just Doris.
he
Okay.
wants he's going to force Doris to be his wife.
And he's like, no, I'm not gonna let you do that.
Well, she
And
paid
that's
him.
it. Yeah, because he's a hunter.
Yeah, he's a vampire
Okay,
hunter. She
yeah.
paid him. And so he's going to do his job.
Okay, I dig that. And this is hysterical too. It's not supposed to be, but it is.
You know, as I'm watching this, you really didn't need to watch Shane. It's not that much like Shane.
Well, thanks. That was like 2.5 hours.
I mean, it is like Shane, but like as I'm watching it, I'm like, it's not that much like Shane. That
It's not more like Shane than any other Western I've seen.
I don't know. Shane is the movie that's always talked about in relation to this movie. So I was like, oh, well, you should watch Shane if you haven't seen Shane. And now I'm watching. I'm like, you know what? You didn't need to watch Shane. I mean, good for you that you watched Shane. You can now bring it up and, more pretension fuel for you that you can like bring up like, well, I've seen Shane. Have you seen Shane? But
Woo, I can be more pretentious.
I love just the just geyser of blood that comes out of Count Lee when he's stabbed. It's literally a fountain.
I'm just loving how not complicated this fight is. Like after seeing so much anime that's all about like doing 100 different moves in a minute,
Yeah,
and
and just like
half an hour
topping each
slowing
other,
it down.
just again and again. Like he's
Yeah.
like, oh no, you're kind of powerful. Well, that's not that big a deal.
I'm also just loving some of the added detail here. Like just with his face and everything. Like it's cool designs.
Yeah, and I like that I really like that Magnus is just like a really classic vampire. Like we just don't
Yeah.
get that outside of like parody anymore.
The only other thing I've seen recently that has vampires that feel this classic is the Batman versus Dracula.
Oh yeah.
That's a really good movie, by the way. I know people don't like the Batman, but I actually really like that show, and I think that movie's great.
Well, I rewatched the Batman last year on your recommendation, and you're right, it's a lot better than everybody gives it credit for. But even before I rewatched it, I was like, I don't like the Batman show, but that Batman versus Dracula, that's really good.
It is. It's so much better than all the Batman versus Dracula comics, too.
I read one of them years and years and years ago. I've always meant to pick up. They have all 3 of them in a trade and read them, but
Yeah. They're just not great. They're all kind of dull. But the movie, I don't know. The movie really captures it well.
So this is the big thing about Dee's backstory, and this is kind of all we'll know for most of the series, is that his dad's Dracula.
So is that why his name's D?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you read the Dracula novel, like Dracula signs his letters D. So I assume that's where he pulled it from. And Dracula's kind of important, and Dracula's a really confusing figure. And he said that once Dracula appears, you'll know that the books are like coming to an end. So Dracula, like, all of the stories are self-contained, but they're kind of building to something.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I hope that they wrap up eventually then, just because I want to see what Dracula in this universe is like.
Yeah. I guess if there's any through line, it's sometimes and this is from like Wikipedia and like reading reviews and stuff. Like I said, I've only actually read the first 3 books, but it seems like there's a number of novels where like he stumbles on something that his father did and then left, where like he like started a project and then abandoned it, and then like D stumbles on it. So like Dracula's kind of, his presence is felt throughout the whole series.
Okay, that's interesting. Oh, is this over?
Almost.
We got like 10 minutes left. Wow.
Yeah. I love
can't
that the
believe we went
castle
through that
sinks
fast.
underground. Like, that's absurd.
That's awesome, but absurd, yeah.
Also, we're going through like thousands of years. Like all of this is unnecessary.
But it looks cool.
It looks cool, but it also makes it seem like years are passing.
Yeah.
Like, based on visual language.
I don't. Yeah, you're right. It is really unnecessary, but it looks cool. That's just so much of this movie. Like, I can't, like, I don't know if I can tell you if it's a good movie, but I really like it.
I would say it's a good movie. I mean, I don't think it's a brilliant genius film, but I think it's a good film.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this at some point with more people, just out of curiosity, see their reaction to it.
Yeah, well, and after we watch the second one, like, that might be the film that you take. Like, I feel like, as much as I like this film, and I like this better than I like how weird this movie is, but
yeah.
I feel like it requires a bit of, like, historical context. Like, the second one might be easier to get people into. Because it's new and pretty.
Okay, well, that's interesting. We'll definitely do the second one then, just because I'm really curious now.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it, like, next week or something.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We got time.
Yeah.
This is cool though. I like, because a lot of things with anime is that we always seem to have like really extended epilogues to certain things, so it's nice to get that here.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of the scenery shots feels like padding. Like, oh crap, we gotta make it to 80 minutes. Crap, we have.
I think it works for the genre though, right? I think because westerns do that all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
And just really classic walking away into the sunset kind of thing.
Yeah, and this is a difference between the American and Japanese version, and it's weird because their faces are clearly more in keeping with the Japanese version. In the Japanese version, this is very much the come back Shane scene.
Right.
In the English dub, it's like, bye, we love you, come back later.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
But yeah, if the Japanese version and the book, this is come back Shane. It's no, don't leave.
Gotcha.
The American version
okay.
The American version literally is the opposite of the scene.
That's really fun.
But yeah, he's riding off into the sunset, even though he's half vampire. That's the thing. It's different than Blade. It'll get touched on in the second movie. We explain Dee's relation to Sun.
Okay, because that was gonna be a question. I just kind of brushing a lot of this under the rug because I think it's just like part of the world, so I don't really care to criticize it.
Yeah. No, there's certain things like Dee and Sun, like that they touch on that in the next movie.
This is one of those things where, like, if someone said, "Okay, you have to write a 10-page paper on this," I don't know what I'd say.
If I had to write a 10-page paper on this, I would probably make the entire paper about the influence of Western culture on Japan, and how this
Oh,
is clearly a tribute to American Western films and like American horror films.
see, now you've given me an idea,
Yeah,
and
see,
now I'm not going to be able to
that's.
forget it.
But I don't know Hammer horror films nearly enough to like actually probably do that paper.
Well, research.
Yeah. Well, I really want to watch all the Hammer horror films, but the releases are dumb. It's
Oh no, I agree
really
with you.
hard to get all of them without like overlap.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and with the new horror universe that's coming, hopefully we'll get more standard collections.
yeah, like I've got a 4-pack of the Hammer Draculas, and then I went to Walmart the other day, and they have a 3-pack that has the one Dracula movie I'm missing, which is Prince of Darkness, which, depending on who you talk to, is either the best or the worst Hammer Dracula film.
I really like Prince of Darkness.
I've never seen it, and I want to watch it, but it's in this 3-pack with 7 Golden Vampires, which I want to see because it's a Kung Fu vampire movie, and then some random Hammer Frankenstein movie. Now, I don't have any of the Hammer Frankenstein movies, but I can guarantee you if I did, I would probably be rebuying the Frankenstein. Like, I hate when they're collected like that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, that's awful. I think a lot of people just at this point just go online to watch those or have like downloaded sets of them.
I know, but I like to own them.
I mean, I do too. I like having a collection of movies, but sometimes you just kind of need them.
I'm already considering rebuying this series on Blu-ray. I mean, it's only 2 movies, like, it's not a lot, but...
I mean, I kind of want to watch this on Blu-ray now because I'm just watching this on a laptop. I kind of want to like put it out in my PS4 and like watch it on a big screen.
Yeah, I don't know if this would look that much better on Blu-ray because it's such old animation. I'm sure the second one will look gorgeous on Blu-ray, but...
Well, this doesn't, at least from this first viewing, I'm not having the Highlander thing where Highlander is a movie I will never watch in HD.
Yeah, well, I don't think this movie has to be dirty, but it's one of those things where, like the HD version of a cartoon is still a cartoon?
Yeah.
And, like, sometimes
yeah.
the colors become too bright and, like, things like that.
Well, I think the big reason to get it on Blu-ray would just be to get more music out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Because this soundtrack I'm really digging. This whole ending song, I don't know what it means, but I like it.
Yeah, there's no subtitles for this song.
What's up with that? Yeah.
But no, I kind of want the soundtrack for this. I might try and get the soundtrack for this and play it over like October because it's just a good like spooky, moody, atmospheric music.
Oh no, it absolutely is. This is just it's good like background noise in general, I think.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun. Thanks for asking me to watch this. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was kind of worried. I'm sorry I made you watch a 2.5-hour movie that had little to do with this, but
That's cool. Like you said, it gives me pretentious points.
I want to imagine that you have like a Goodwill Hunting thing, like you go to people, but it's not history, it's like pop culture, and you're like, we forgot about Shane. You didn't bring up Shane in your analysis of the American Western.
I want that. I want to have that Goodwill Hunting conversation at some point in my life so badly.
Well, what's
And it
funny
will never
is
happen.
I'm not a history guy at all, so like I don't know half of what they're saying in that scene. But, like I know the lines, like I know it's Vicus and the American Commonwealth. Vicus has written something about the American Commonwealth.
And it's important, and you shouldn't have forgotten it.
Yeah. All right, well I think that'll wrap it. Man, all these credits
Yeah.
are in Japanese too.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that.
That's a thing we used to do. Like we used to not do American credits. I don't know why.
Weird. Okay, well, no, this was fun. Thanks everybody for watching all this along with us. Eric and I will come back probably next week or so to come back and do the second movie. What's the second one called?
Bloodlust.
Bloodlust.
Generic vampire title.
Okay. Yeah, it's
The
the most
book is
generic.
called Demon Death Chase, which is
That's
way
awesome.
cooler.
Why wouldn't you make that the title?
Because Bloodlust.
But Demon Death Chase.
Yeah, I don't know. It's generic.
Okay, whatever. I will probably, while we're waiting, go out and like try to get at least like the first couple books now, just because I'm really curious about this world.
Yeah, I was thinking about rereading, at least trying to reread through the third one before we do the next movie, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Are they shorter or longer books?
They're shorter books. They're light novels. Let's see. I've got one right next to me. Because I started reading the second book. Because I've read the first book 3 times. I'm not reading it again. Let's see. It is. They look longer than they are because they do that thing that I always associate with like Goosebumps, where like the first chapter of the next book is in the book.
Oh, okay.
All right. So the second book's about 230 pages.
That's not bad. That's like a day and a half.
Yeah, that's about. I mean, if you are a master of, what's the word I'm looking for? Time management, like Steve Baxi.
I'm not a master of time management. I'm just really lazy, but so lazy that I'm productive.
I don't like I'll have nothing to do all day, and somehow I don't get any of the things I had to do done. I woke up at 4:00 today.
That's okay. I didn't go to sleep until 4:00 yesterday.
Well, I mean, I didn't go to sleep till late, but still, I woke up at 4:00. I was like, I should get some food because I have to do 2 commentaries today. And then I recorded a commentary, and now I record this commentary. That has been my entire day. Which I guess that's kind of productive. I recorded 2 commentaries. Tomorrow, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to record 2 more commentaries.
Your entire week is just commentaries.
My entire week is just commentaries.
Well, you're going to get to see all of those commentaries on Geekvolution relatively soon. I'm actually going to edit this and post this probably tonight.
Oh, really?
So people are going to get this right away. But Eric, thanks for joining me and thanks for recommending this movie. We'll be back with you pretty soon to do the next one,
Yep.
just depending on when our schedules line up.
Yeah, next week I'm actually working a lot. So,
Oh, okay. Maybe we can try and knock it out this week.
maybe. We'll talk about it after we finish the video.
Okay, cool. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. This was Eric.
Are we doing that here too?
I mean, I don't know. I was just
This
going to say
is
this is
also
Eric. You'd say
Steve.
bye, and then I'd say this is me, and I'd bye. I don't know.
Oh, okay. That's what you're doing. I always thought you were doing a joke where you're saying this is Eric because you're Steve.
No, I thought that was the joke you created. That's what Captain Logan does. He's like, that was Eric, and then Eric says bye, and then he's like, that's Dan, and Dan says bye.
You're right. But I for some reason I just misunderstood. And you're like, this is Eric, and I'm like, and this is Steve.
I mean, I guess we can
Question
make that
mark?
our sign off. I don't
That's
know.
what we started doing in the Lovecraft videos. I thought that was just a Lovecraft videos thing, and now it came into this, and now I'm explaining it. And now it's all weird. No one's gonna listen this far.
It's whatever. That was Eric, and this is me, and we will see you next time.
Bye.